So my first question for you is, if you're a graduate of the University of New Mexico, but now you're homeless, what are you? You're a blank blank.
University of Mexico?
University of New Mexico, but now you're homeless. You're a blank blank.
Hobo Lobo.
Oh, he got it, ladies and gentlemen. He got it.
Hey, you come for the king, you better not miss. Anyway, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And you, and you, and you, and you were there. Some of it wasn't very nice, but most of it was beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not surprised you got it.
But it's really not nice being on the receiving end of that.
The other one I had as well that just made me laugh, kind of along the same lines. If you're a graduate of the University of New Mexico and you enjoy eating smoked meat, you're having you're sorry, making myself laugh. That's not the point. You're having blank
Albuquerque
blank.
Jerky.
No. Damn close. I made myself laugh with Barbuquerque in Albuquerque. Making up words. Anyway, and we're back. Welcome, folks, to another Dream Idiots. Thanks for listening and for sharing and for commenting and for all the stuff you guys are doing for us out there. And I hope you're liking the show.
Yes, emphasis on idiots lately, I think. So I'm going first this week.
Yes,
and Bryan, I've got my story today. I've got an opening question for you. You don't have to answer it, but you can just say yes or no. Do you know the difference between a bull and a steer?
A bull and a steer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
You don't know?
No,
okay.
No idea.
Well, let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. My story today is tentatively titled "The Ridiculous History of Professional Football in San Antonio," because you and I grew up in San Antonio.
Uh-huh.
And what did we have to watch sports-wise when we were kids? We watched the Spurs.
That's
and we might get lucky enough to we might get lucky enough to go to a minor league baseball game. But you'd be surprised at how many pro football teams, and I'm using the word pro very, very loosely here, we've had in San Antonio. So come back with me, if you will, to 1966. Let's talk about the first professional football team in San Antonio. The San Antonio Toros, by far the most successful professional team San Antonio's ever had. They existed from 1966 to 1974.
Wow.
You ever heard of them?
I don't think I have.
Well, they won 5 titles in 9 years in, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different leagues. From 66 to 68, they were in the Texas Football League. Then they spent a season in the Continental Football League. They're in the Trans-American Football League, the Southwest Football League from 72 to 73, and they finished out their last season in the Mid-America Football League, winning titles here and there throughout. They played all over San Antonio, Harlandale Memorial Stadium, Northeast Stadium, Alamo Stadium. So they played all over the city. They were all over the place. And I will have, at some point, I will have the logos where you can look at them on the website so you can see how it's changed over the years. Now, in 75, they were replaced by the Wings, the San Antonio Wings. Picture a helmet that looks something like the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
They played at Alamo Stadium. And you ever heard of a guy named Gary L. Davidson?
No. Mm-mm.
He sounds kind of like a game show host, right? Or maybe, what was that show? That's Incredible. That was John Davison. Gary L. Davison was the founder of a couple of 3 sports leagues, actually. He founded the American Basketball Association, the ABA, back in the 60s. Sure. He also founded the World Hockey Association back in the 70s. Now, both of those leagues went on to merge with the bigger leagues. The ABA merged with the NBA. 4 teams went on to become NBA teams, one of which was our San Antonio Spurs. And the World Hockey Association, 4 teams from that went on to merge with the NHL. So he was pretty successful at creating a rival league and then merging it. And the WFL was his attempt to do the same with football.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And our team was the San Antonio Wings, lasted one season. Well, we were a football list for a year. Have you heard of either of these teams? You haven't heard of the Toros. Have you heard of the Wings before?
That does not ring a bell either. No.
Okay. Then from 77 to 83, we had the San Antonio Charros, and they changed their name to the Bulls halfway through. Okay. And I'm not sure where their home field team was. And then from 84 to 85, we had probably the best known professional football team in the spring league, the USFL San Antonio Gunslingers.
Mm-hmm.
Their home
Rick
team
Neuheisel.
was, yes, they played at Alamo Stadium.
Oh.
Now, I'm going to read a little bit from an excellent book, Jeff Pearlman's Football for a Buck. Came out a few years back. Football for a Buck, the crazy rise and crazier demise of the USFL. I don't want to take too much time away from this. Gunslingers lasted only 2 seasons. Here's his descriptions. He's got an entire chapter on the Gunslingers.
How?
Well, that's the thing. Here you go. Think of your favorite Looney Tunes episode, inject it with a line of cocaine, then stir in some really hideous uniforms, a senile 7-fingered coach, a wackadoo owner, a decrepit stadium, bouncing checks, speeding cars, murderous defensive linemen, and a football. Toss in bad judgment, ego, and clinical insanity, and you have the Gunslingers. I think they're in contention for easily the worst run sports franchise that San Antonio has ever seen, and probably one of the worst ever. I remember hearing some of this stuff when they were around, that it was just really badly run.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend the book. They did not last long. I went to one game, I think, and this is the first time I remember that, maybe San Antonio can have a pro football team. They lasted 2 seasons. Then along comes the San Antonio Riders in 1991. Now, I have fond memories of this team because they also played at Alamo Stadium for their first season. They did. They played their first season. That was my first year at Trinity. And so you could just walk across the street, literally to Alamo Stadium from my dorm room, and for like $4, get a seat as a college student and watch the San Antonio Riders, whose uniforms are even more hideous than the Gunslingers.
Yeah, brown and gold.
Brown, gold, red, white, and blue. There was gray in there somewhere, I think, black. The San Antonio Riders played in the World League of American Football. Their second season, they moved up to Bobcat Stadium up in San Marcos because there was an alcohol consideration, because Alamo Stadium is under the control of one of the school districts, San Antonio School District, I think.
Right.
This is the league that eventually morphed into NFL Europe. So all the American franchises were closed down, and it became solely NFL Europe by the mid-90s. Riders did not last long. And then comes my favorite, the San Antonio Texans of the Canadian Football League in 1995. They played 1 season. Their home field was the Alamo Dome. Their main colors were burgundy and teal with a splash of gold.
Oh.
That was fun to watch because I do enjoy Canadian
burgundy football. And wow, that sounds hideous. Yeah,
with white helmets. I'm looking at the pennant. I have some of the pennants here above my recording area in my basement, and I'm going to say it works because you can't see it, so it works.
Like medieval jousting colors or something.
Yeah, it's well, it's kind of like the Jaguar colors of today in the NFL, but with burgundy.
Okay.
A spring football league team called the San Antonio Matadors, which I'm not familiar with because I was completely out of San Antonio by then. They only lasted 1 season. They were the champs. Then there's 2 teams called the Warriors and the Titans who play in something called the Big Southern Football League. And apparently they've been around for quite a while. I've never heard of them. I think that's more of a semi-pro team. And the last team that we can really call, I think, professional football as we know it, are the San Antonio Commanders. And they also have burgundy, silver, red, and white in their uniforms. And strangely enough, it really, really works. Too bad their league folded after 8 games. They made it half a season in 2019. I got to watch one game on TV, and they were gone in the Alliance of American Football, or American Football in 2019. In addition to these what we would call traditional football, San Antonio's also had 4 Arena Football League teams. The San Antonio Force from 92, the San Antonio Steers. Do you remember when I asked you the difference between a bull and a steer?
Yes, huh?
What
It's
now that you've
arenas
had time,
versus stay.
what bulls play outside, steers only play indoors. What do you think might be a difference between a bull and a steer? What might a bull have that a steer does not?
Well, I know there's like bull semen. I know is a huge business. The whole mating, that whole industry. I would assume it's related to the steerage and the fathering of more whatever
When you don't
studying.
want a bull to be a bull anymore, what do you do?
Oh, okay. You castrate it, right?
And then it becomes a steer.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So my question is, if you want to have a big, fearsome mascot, why would you name your team the Steers? Anyway, the San Antonio Force, the San Antonio Steers, the San Antonio Talons, those were all in 92, 2007, 2000. The San Antonio Talons lasted 3 whole seasons. Pretty impressive. And then in 2021 and 2022, we've got the San Antonio Gunslingers. Red, white, and blue are their colors. They play in the good old Joe and Harry Freeman Coliseum. We've also had 3, maybe 4 women's professional football teams. The San Antonio Flames, who played in the mid-'70s in the National Women's Football League. The San Antonio Estrella, who played in the Women's Arena Football League. The San Antonio, this might be my favorite name, the Regulators in the Independent Women Football League. And they were also a Founders Bowl champion in 2018. It's hard to find info on them. And then there's another one that may or may not be a team called the Texas Legacy. So that's a grand total of like almost 20 teams that are pro or semi-pro that have played in San Antonio. So my question is, San Antonio is a reasonably sized city. It's pretty big. Why can't we support, or why can't San Antonio, since I don't live there and you don't currently live there, why can't it support professional football? Why do you think it has never worked or never caught on?
Well, I think the arguments against it typically have been that you do have a population there that are certainly football fans, but average income there is lower, education levels there. I mean, you have a ton of folks there that are wage earners, and I mean, Dallas Cowboy tickets or Texans tickets are expensive as hell. I mean, the money behind it I judge hasn't really ever made sense, because they're not as many folks in Bexar County with that kind of disposable income, because take 2 people or a family of 4 to an NFL game with food and tickets. How much is that going to cost you? $500 at a minimum?
Yep. Robert Rivard in SanAntonioReport.org wrote an article from all the way back in 2014 called 5 Reasons Why San Antonio Will Never Get the Raiders. Because San Antonio has been constantly in the courting for the Oakland the Raiders, the Oakland / LA / Las Vegas Raiders. And back in 2014, he came up with five arguments. 1, no NFL quality stadium. The Alamo Dome, once upon a time, may have been that.
Right.
That was 30 something years ago.
Sure. Right.
It's a great place to hold a bowl game. It's a great place to watch a football game. But in terms of what people expect from an NFL quality stadium, I'd have to agree with that. The corporate base isn't big enough. This is the second reason. I don't know how much that's changed since 2014. What kind of big corporations are in San Antonio is important, so they can support it mainly with the big box suites and so forth for companies. Number 3 is Jerry Jones.
Right.
As to why San Antonio will never get the Raiders. Jerry Jones has said he would vote for San Antonio getting an NFL franchise.
Well, that's
I'm not sure we should trust him.
Right.
Number 4, the Spurs are good enough for San Antonio.
Okay.
Once upon a time, maybe when they're in the middle of a championship run, maybe not now. I don't know. Number 5, San Antonio is used as a bargaining tool too often, and the city was always willing to kind of play along. And I recall there was an article, and I could not find it, where the mayor finally had enough, and he was just like, "No, stop using us as a bargaining chip." And I can't remember what team finally did it. It might have been, I mean, the three teams that always come up are Jacksonville, New Orleans, and the Raiders.